All right, this one is the Chicago hardy fig. This one can go directly in the ground because it can withstand very cold temperatures. I believe zones 5 to 10. And if I cut it a certain way, I don't have to worry about the height on it. But it is in a nice gallon-sized container, came very well packaged with all of my epic gardening fruit trees. So let me show you exactly what I'm going to do with the rest of them. Here's how I'm going to put my Chicago Hardy in a container till it gets a little bit bigger, and I'll plant it in the fall next year. So let me show you how they go together. So the first thing you need to do is take your container and make drainage holes. Now there's little spots that I can just pop out to make a good well-draining container, because that is the most important thing about growing in containers, is making sure it is well draining and the water just doesn't sit at the bottom. So that went through easily. Good. And then I want to get the plastic out from the other side. Make sure you use gloves so you don't cut yourself. Then first thing I'm going to do is fill it about halfway with soil so I could put my Chicago Hardy fig in there. Now this is just a regular standard organic potting mix, and I'm just going to break up the clumps as I'm putting them inside, because the clumpier it is, the harder it is going to be for the roots to establish in your container. This goes for anything, even if you are planting in the ground. Now, figs can be grown in the ground, but since I bought mine like a little smaller, so fall is the best time to put them in the ground, as I am filming this in late September. So even though it could go in the ground in zones 5 to 10, I'm going to wait because I want it to be a little bit more established. The next thing I want to do is take some worm castings, which I swear by. This bag is almost completely done. This is going to create a good natural compost in your container, but also help prevent transplant shock as well. Worm castings it's really gross, so make sure you use gloves, but it is basically worm poop, which is amazing for your soil. Next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to put cocoa coir inside of it, and notice that it's in a storage container. That is because I usually buy them by the brick, and all you do is just get a big storage container, mix water with your hose, and crumble it up, and then you can come back a few hours later so it absorbs, and it creates this beautiful, well-draining soil that I have right here. The reason why I want to put it in my container is not only to make it well-draining, but also it helps keep moisture in, which is very, very important in containers because they dry out so much faster than in the ground. Then just take your container and mix it around with your gloves so it's not like layered like how I just did it, but it is all mixed together nicely. That way everything is all around the roots, and I won't have any problems with transplant shock or needing fertilizer. I could just put it right back in. So the best way to put your containers, you're going to take this, turn it sideways, you're going to squeeze around it to prevent the roots, and it should just slide out just like that. Now, this is a little dry, so I am going to crinkle it up with the roots over the pot. So this one is really, really dry. It definitely needed a bigger pot or in the ground. You could just crinkle it up at the bottom and try not to hurt the roots. I'm going to add a little bit of water so it loosens up some, because that's really, really important. Your roots are what need water, you guys. So your flowers don't need water, the leaves don't need water, but the roots are thirsty. So this really needs some more water. It was very, very dry. All right, that should be good. I'm just going to press really good in here, and the cocoa coir is really going to help in the worm castings that I put in there. I'm then going to place it in, give it a nice little tug in, and then I'm going to fill up the rest with this potting soil that I have. Make sure it is all crinkled up because, like I said, those roots really need to establish now. That is very important with your container or in the ground, either way. So these can actually grow in the colder weather. This is the Chicago hardy fig, which grows in zones 5 to 10, I believe. This is very hardy, hence the name Chicago hardy. That is because it can withstand negative temperatures. It does really good in the ground, and fig trees can get very tall. But if you trim them, make sure you prune them in the winter when they're dormant, by the way. When you prune them, you can actually cut not the stems, like the branches going out, but you want to cut the actual stem of the tree. So that way it can get wide and not tall. That way you can always be able to grab your figs, unlike, an apple tree that gets really tall, you can't reach it very well. So that is how you can keep them shorter. Now I'm going to grow this as a container, and I actually have another fig tree. If you saw my last video, the phenomenal fig that only gets 2 to 3 feet tall max. So that one is a really good option. If you do not have a lot of space, have a patio or balcony garden, want to grow it under a grow light inside an apartment or a sunny window, these are excellent to start. And if you've never had a fresh fig, I've only ever had them dried on charcuterie boards. So the last thing I'm going to do, I usually water them when they're inside, but you saw me water earlier to loosen them up. I'm going to give it a good water. This is water I got from my rain barrel, so super all natural, their favorite. Going to make it a little prettier. There we go. I'm going to put it next to all my containers and bring it inside for the winter. If you haven't already, follow along, hit that subscribe button because I got another fruit tree coming up in my next video. Happy gardening.